The Galactic Council sat in a grand hall, a place filled with the brightest minds and leaders of many species. The hall was shaped like a giant dome, with walls that shimmered like the stars. It was here that decisions about the galaxy were made. Today, the topic was the newly discovered species called humans. A tall, blue-skinned alien named Talvorin stepped forward. He was a member of the Thor, an ancient and wise species. His face was serious, and his deep black eyes showed concern. "My fellow council members," he began, his voice echoing through the hall. "We have made contact with a species from a planet classified as a death world. Their planet is called Earth, and its people are called humans. I bring a warning." The hall became silent. Death worlds were planets that were dangerous, full of extreme weather, deadly creatures, and harsh conditions. Life that survived on such worlds had to be strong, clever, and adaptable. A reptilian alien named Vreshk, leader of the Tarvek Empire, scoffed. "Another death world species. We have seen such creatures before. They are strong but simple. Why should we fear these humans?" Zalvorin took a deep breath. "Because they are not like the others. Other death world species are powerful, yes, but predictable. They fight with strength. Humans, however, fight with their minds. They are the most adaptable species we have ever seen. They do not just survive, they thrive." A murmur spread through the hall. Many council members exchanged nervous glances. The insectoid ambassador, click-clack, clicked his mandibles. "What proof do you bring, Zalvorin?" Zalvorin pressed a button, and a large screen appeared in the center of the hall. Images of Earth's history flashed before them. Wars that shaped entire continents, humans surviving disasters, creating tools, and building great cities. They had fought nature, disease, and even each other, yet they only became stronger. They have no claws, no natural armor, no powerful fangs. Zalvorin continued. Yet they are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They create weapons out of nothing. They turn their weaknesses into strengths. If they are threatened, they do not run. They fight back, harder and smarter than before. The hall fell into silence. Even the most warlike species in the council seemed uneasy. Vreshk narrowed his yellow eyes. "Are you suggesting that we should fear them? That we should avoid them?" "I am suggesting that we do not make the mistake of underestimating them," Zalvorin said firmly. "If we approach them with respect and caution, they may be allies. But if we treat them as weak or lesser, we will regret it." A tall, gray-skinned alien named Drelmar, leader of the Karthok Dominion, crossed his arms. "This is nonsense. No species can be that dangerous. We should test them. Let us send an envoy to observe them. If they are a threat, we will deal with them before they become a problem." Zalvorin shook his head. "That would be a mistake. Many before us have thought the same. They saw humans as nothing more than another species to conquer. They were wrong." The council members whispered among themselves. Some nodded in agreement with Zalvorin. Others, like Drelmar and Vreshk, seemed unconvinced. Finally, the leader of the council, a wise being known as Elder Kareen, raised a hand. "We shall send a small team to observe the humans. If they are peaceful, we will open communication. If they are dangerous, we will decide what to do next." Zalvorin sighed. He had done all he could. The warning had been given. Whether the council listened or not, only time would tell. As the meeting ended, ships were prepared for the journey to Earth. The fate of the galaxy was about to change forever. The alien observation ship, the Starseeker, moved silently through the darkness of space. It was small, built for stealth, and carried a team of scientists, warriors, and diplomats. Their mission was clear: study the humans and report back to the Galactic Council. Captain Vorkesh, a tall reptilian warrior with green scales, stood at the control panel. His yellow eyes scanned the blue planet below. It looked peaceful, with vast oceans, green lands, and white clouds. But he remembered the warning from Zalvorin. "These humans," he muttered. "They do not look dangerous." Beside him, Dr. Lurven, a thin, gray-skinned scientist from the Karthok Dominion, adjusted the ship's sensors. "We must not judge too quickly," she said. "They have survived here for thousands of years. Let us watch and learn." The crew activated the ship's cloaking device and entered Earth's atmosphere. The ship hovered over a large human city. Tall buildings stretched high, lights filled the streets, and countless humans moved below. "They are everywhere," whispered Ensign Vroll, a young warrior. "So many of them." "They live in great numbers," Lurven said. "This is why they are strong. Their unity gives them power." The crew watched as humans went about their daily lives. Some worked, some played, and some traveled in fast-moving vehicles. They seemed harmless, yet there was something different about them. After hours of silent observation, Lurven gasped. She pointed at a large screen showing footage of human history. "Look," she said. The screen displayed wars, humans fighting with weapons, using tactics, never giving up. Despite pain and suffering, they'd always found a way to survive and win. Then the screen changed, showing humans exploring space, landing on the moon, sending machines to Mars. They were not just warriors, they were explorers and inventors. Captain Vorkesh frowned. "They fight like no other species. They do not wait for danger to come to them. They go looking for it." "Look at their technology," Lurven added. "They have built great machines with very few resources. Imagine what they could do with more." Vroll crossed his arms. "They do not seem so powerful now. They live in peace." Lurven shook her head. "That is what makes them dangerous. They are always preparing. When war comes, they will be ready." The crew continued their research, but there was only so much they could learn from above. They needed to go closer. "We must send a team down," Vorkesh decided. "We will disguise ourselves and walk among them." Lurven hesitated. "Is that wise?" "We must know the truth," Vorkesh said, "and the truth cannot be seen from the sky." That night, 3 members of the crew landed in a small forest near the human city. They wore cloaking devices to blend in. Their mission was simple: observe, gather information, and return without being noticed. As they walked through the city, they saw humans talking, laughing, and eating. They entered a large building filled with books. Humans sat quietly, reading and studying. "These creatures seek knowledge," Lurven whispered. "They are always learning." They moved on and found themselves near a human training facility. Inside, men and women lifted heavy objects, ran on machines, and practiced hand-to-hand combat. The aliens watched in awe. "They train their bodies," Vroll said. "Even in peace, they prepare for war." Then they heard a loud sound. An alarm rang through the air. The humans inside moved quickly, grabbing gear and running to vehicles. Something was happening. Vorkesh pressed a button on his wrist device. "Scan the area." Lurven checked her screen. "A disaster," she said. "A fire in one of their buildings. Many are in danger." The aliens watched as large red vehicles rushed through the streets. Humans in protective suits ran into the burning building without hesitation. "They run toward danger," Vroll said in disbelief. "Not away from it." Minutes passed. The humans worked together, saving those trapped inside. Some of them were injured, but they did not stop. When the fire was finally put out, they stood tall, helping each other. Lurven's voice was quiet. "They do not fear death." Vorkesh took a deep breath. "No, they do not. And that makes them more dangerous than we thought." The mission was complete. They had seen enough. The team returned to their ship and left Earth's atmosphere. The crew sat in silence, thinking about what they had learned. Captain Vorkesh turned to Lurven. "Prepare the report." Lurven nodded. She knew what she had to write. The Galactic Council had been warned before. Now, they had proof. Humans were not just survivors. They were warriors. They were builders. They were fearless. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The Starseeker returned to deep space, heading toward the Galactic Council station. The crew remained silent, their minds heavy with what they had seen. Captain Vorkesh stood at the front of the ship, his sharp eyes staring into the void. He knew the council had to hear their report, but he also knew some would not believe it. They will not understand, Lurven said quietly. They do not see humans as we do. They will see, Vorkesh replied. Soon. Meanwhile, in another part of the galaxy, a warlike species known as the Krell Dominion had received the same warnings about humans. But unlike the others, they did not fear them. The Krell were a proud and violent species, known for conquering weaker planets and turning them into slave worlds. They believed strength ruled the universe. High General Torgesh, leader of the Krell Dominion, sat in his war chamber, staring at the reports on his screen. His red eyes glowed as he read about the humans. They are primitive, he said with a growl. They are weak. We will take them before they grow stronger. One of his commanders, a fierce warrior named Drekfar, stepped forward. But General, the reports say they are unpredictable. They fight in strange ways. They have no fear. Torgesh laughed. All creatures fear death. They have never faced the Krell before. Drekfar hesitated. The Council has warned against interfering with humans. The Council is full of cowards. Torgesh snapped. We will take a small force, test these humans, and show the galaxy that the Krell fear nothing. The order was given. Within hours, a Krell warship left for Earth, carrying warriors ready for battle. The Krell ship arrived in Earth's orbit, hiding behind the moon. Their plan was simple: capture a small group of humans and study them. If the humans proved weak, the Krell would invade. If the humans resisted, they would be destroyed. Drekfar led the team. The warriors landed near a human military base at night. They moved silently, their armor blending into the darkness. Their scanners found a small group of human soldiers training outside. These will do, Drekfar whispered. The Krell struck fast. Their energy weapons fired, stunning the humans before they could react. Within minutes, 5 soldiers were captured and transported to the Krell ship. Inside the Krell warship, the humans were locked in a secure room. The walls were made of strong metal, and energy fields kept them from escaping. The Krell stood outside, watching them through a glass window. These creatures look weak, one warrior said. They are small compared to us. Drekfar nodded. Let us test them. The humans inside the room whispered among themselves. One of them, a tall man named Sergeant Mason, looked around carefully. He saw the cameras, the guards, the weapons. He stayed calm. They don't know what they've done, Mason said softly. A younger soldier, Private Lewis, looked scared. What do you mean? They think we are weak, Mason said. That's their first mistake. Suddenly, the door opened and Krell guards entered. They pulled one of the humans, a female soldier, out of the room and led her away. Mason stepped forward. Where are you taking her? He demanded. Drekfar, standing outside, grinned. We are studying your kind. You will tell us what we want to know. Mason glared at him. And if we refuse? Drekfar chuckled. You will. But Mason smiled. That's your second mistake. Minutes later, alarms blared inside the Krell ship. The captured humans had fought back. They had overpowered their guards, taken their weapons, and were now moving through the ship. Drekfar ran to the control room. What is happening? He roared. They escaped. A Krell officer shouted. They are taking control of the ship. Drekfar slammed his fist on the table. How? They used their own bodies as weapons, the officer said, fear in his voice. They are fast, they are strong, and they do not stop. The ship's security cameras showed the humans fighting with skill and precision. They worked as a team, moving quickly, using the Krell's own weapons against them. One human broke a Krell warrior's arm with just his hands. Another used a stolen rifle to disable the ship's power systems. Drekvar's heart pounded. We have underestimated them. Mason and his team reached the control room. They burst in, weapons ready. Mason aimed his rifle at Drekvar. "Now," Mason said, "you are the prisoners." Drekvar raised his hand slowly. He had never felt fear before. But now, staring into the eyes of these humans, he understood the warning. Humans were not weak. They were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Hours later, the Krell warship returned to the Galactic Council station. The doors opened, and the humans stepped out, free, unharmed, and in control. Behind them, Drekvar and his warriors followed, their heads lowered in shame. The council members gasped. Even Exalvoran's eyes widened in surprise. Elder Kareen stood. "What is the meaning of this?" Mason stepped forward. "They thought they could take us," he said. "They were wrong." Torgesh, still in his war chamber, watched the transmission from his screen. His red eyes flickered with something he had never felt before. Fear. Exalvoran turned to the council. "Now do you believe me?" he asked. "We warned you." The Krell did not listen. And now they know the truth. The council sat in silence. The humans had proven themselves, and the galaxy would never forget. The Galactic Council sat in silence, their grand hall filled with an uneasy tension. The sight of human soldiers walking freely, while the defeated Krell warriors stood behind them in shame, was something no one had expected. Elder Kareen, leader of the council, slowly rose from her seat. Her wise, ancient eyes studied the scene before her. "Explain," she said, her voice calm but firm. Sergeant Mason stepped forward. His posture was strong, his eyes sharp. He was not intimidated by the presence of alien leaders. "The Krell attacked us," he said simply. "They kidnapped my team. They thought we were weak. We proved them wrong." Drekvar, the Krell warrior who had once been so proud, now stood with his head lowered. He clenched his fists but said nothing. Zalvoran, the blue-skinned alien who had first warned the council, looked at Mason with deep interest. "You overpowered a Krell warship?" he asked. "With only 5 soldiers." Mason nodded. "Yes." A murmur spread through the hall. The Krell were feared across the galaxy. They had conquered many planets, yet a handful of humans had defeated them. Vreshk, the reptilian leader of the Tarvek Empire, leaned forward, his yellow eyes filled with curiosity. "How?" Mason shrugged. "We worked together. We used what we had. We adapted." Elder Kareen studied Mason. "And what do you want from us?" she asked. Mason crossed his arms. "Nothing." This surprised the council members. Most species would demand compensation, power, or alliances. But the humans asked for nothing. "You seek no revenge?" Kareen asked. Mason shook his head. "We don't start wars," he said. "But if someone comes for us, we finish them." Drekvar's face darkened. He knew Mason spoke the truth. He had seen it with his own eyes. Zalvoran stepped forward. "I have warned this council before. Now, we all see the truth. Humans are not to be underestimated." Vresh exhaled. "And if they turn against us?" Mason smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Then you have a real problem." The council fell silent again. The message was clear. Humans were not conquerors. They did not seek war, but they were not weak. If provoked, they would fight, and they would win. Kareen turned to the other council members. "We must decide," she said. "Do we welcome humans into the Galactic Council, or do we prepare for what may come?" Torgesh, the Krell High General, appeared on a massive screen, his red eyes glowing with anger. "They are a threat," he growled. "We must strike now, before they grow stronger." Mason did not even flinch. "You already tried," he said. "Didn't go so well, did it?" Laughter broke out in the hall. Even Vreshk smirked. Torgesh snarled. "This is not over." The screen went black. Kareen sighed. It is clear that some among us will not accept humans, but we cannot ignore the truth. The humans have proven their strength. They have earned our respect. Zalvorin nodded. I propose we invite them to join the Galactic Council. A discussion broke out. Some agreed immediately. Others hesitated. The humans were powerful, but could they be trusted? Finally, a vote was called. One by one, the council members cast their decision. When the final count was made, Karine looked at Mason. The vote is in, she said. Earth is now part of the Galactic Council. Mason nodded. Good. The humans had not asked for this, but now they were part of something bigger, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The decision had been made. Earth was now part of the Galactic Council. The news spread quickly across the stars, reaching every species in the galaxy. Some celebrated, while others watched with fear. The Krell Dominion, humiliated by their defeat, prepared for revenge. But humanity was ready. Sergeant Mason and his team remained on the council station. They were no longer prisoners. They were now representatives of Earth. The council had given them quarters, but Mason rarely stayed in his room. He spent most of his time observing the other species, learning how they operated. One evening, Zalvorin approached him. You have changed everything, he said. Mason smirked. We just defended ourselves. Zalvorin shook his head. No, you did more than that. The council has always believed that balance must be maintained. They feared change, but now they cannot ignore the truth. Mason crossed his arms. And what truth is that? That humans are stronger than anyone expected. Zalvorin said, that you do not fear war, but you do not seek it, and that is why you are dangerous. Mason chuckled. That's a good thing, right? Zalvorin sighed. For some, yes, but not for all. On the other side of the galaxy, High General Torgish stood before his war council. The Krell Dominion was still reeling from their loss. Warriors who had once spoken of conquest now whispered about humans in fear. Torgish slammed his fist on the table. The council has made a mistake. The humans should not be our allies. They should be our slaves. One of his commanders, HFY, remained silent. He had faced the humans. He had seen their strength, and he was no longer sure that war was the answer. Torgish noticed his hesitation. You doubt me. Drekvar hesitated, then spoke. I doubt our chances of victory. The room fell silent. No Krell had ever spoken such words before. Torgish growled. You are a coward. Drekvar met his gaze. No, I am a survivor. I have fought many battles. I have never feared an enemy. But these humans, they are not like the others. If we attack them, they will not stop until we are destroyed. Torgish snarled. Then we must strike first. Drekvar shook his head. We already did, and we lost. Torgish's rage boiled over. He lunged at Drekvar, his claws swinging. But Drekvar was ready. He dodged, grabbing Torgish's arm and twisting it. With a loud crack, the High General fell to the ground. The other Krell warriors watched in shock. Drekvar stood tall. The war is over. We will not fight the humans again. Torgish groaned in pain. You are a traitor. No, Drekvar said. I am the future. The Krell War Council remained silent. One by one, the warriors lowered their weapons. They had seen the truth. The Krell Dominion would not survive another war with humans. And so, for the first time in history, the Krell chose peace. Back at the council station, the final meeting was held. Elder Karine addressed the members. The Krell Dominion has surrendered its plans for war, she announced. There will be no more conflict. A wave of relief spread through the hall. The galaxy had come close to destruction, but now there was hope. Vreshk, the reptilian leader, turned to Mason. It seems we made the right choice. Mason nodded. Let's hope it stays that way. Karine looked around the room. The galaxy is changing, And humanity is at the center of it. We must work together to build a future of peace. Zalvorin smiled. A future where Deathworlders and aliens stand as equals. Mason extended his hand. Zalvorin hesitated, then shook it, a symbol of a new era. And so the warnings about humans had been proven true. They were dangerous. They were strong. But they were also the best hope the galaxy had. And this was only the beginning.